Yo, what is good, everybody? It is your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What Ifs, whatever you want to call me, and I am back. This is a brand new Deku What If. What if Deku had a godly lightning quirk? It seems like you guys really like the, what if he had a godly ice quirk? So I was like, you know what? Let's just do it again. Or do a different version, but let's do it again. And, yeah, I'm excited for this one. I am going to make this 2 parts, so it's going to be, like how we did last time, where we're gonna have part 1 and then part 2, and then we'll have the full movie. I was going to actually do the double upload like we talked about before. I decided against it just because it at least gives me like a day off from just grinding the what ifs and making a ton of videos. I love making videos, but it does get tiring from time to time. I can't complain very much though, but still I would love to, you know, get as much just give me as many ideas as you possibly can in the comment section below. I don't want to waste much more of your time. Check the links in the description for the Discord membership and all that good stuff, Spotify. And yeah, that's really all I gotta say. Don't worry, I don't plan on only doing Deku What Ifs. I do want to do some other stuff as well. Probably get into doing some Tanjiro stuff pretty soon. And I wanted to say that this video will be a little bit less story driven. I won't, like, you know, say unnecessary things. I just want to, I kind of like switching up the styles every so often. But yeah, with that said, I don't want to waste much more of your time, and I want to get right into it, so let's get it. This story starts with Izuku Midoriya being born. And he's born in your typical Japan hospital, whatever you possibly could say. And obviously he is born to Inko Midoriya. And the thing is everybody knew in the hospital when this kid was being born because, well, the lights, the electricity, everything would start flickering, would start turning off and on, and everything would start just rumbling. Lightning would begin to strike outside, and everything would go haywire, and everything all around them seemingly was being kind of destroyed or even kind of messed with to a large extent. Now, he wasn't like blowing up the entire hospital or anything like that, but lightning continuously kept striking even though it was the dead of the night. The weather was fine and nothing was happening, but lightning would go off near the building, and the building's power supply was completely getting messed with and completely turning off and on. But as all of this is occurring, Izuku, well, is obviously being born. And everybody thinks initially, like, what is happening? But they realize that the kid has to be a big reason, if not the sole reason, on why this is occurring. There's really no other explanation, to what's happening. I mean, what else are they gonna say? Like, I mean, seriously, like, what else can even be said? I mean, this obviously has to be the birth of Izuku Midoriya, and that's what it would be, the birth of Izuku Midoriya. Because when he would be a little bit older, they would learn that he has these lightning powers, but lightning powers that are beyond even the comprehension of every single test you could possibly run. Every test would tell them one thing, but the actions of Izuku Midoriya, of what he goes through and what happens, would tell everybody the exact opposite. Because Izuku's powers seem to be completely different than anything they have ever seen. It's not electrical powers like, you know, some sort of electricity. No. It's flat out lightning. But it's as if he can control it in bunches. And he's only like 4 years old at this point. And it seems like Izuku can straight up control lightning itself, but control it to a degree that nobody necessarily even understands, because he can control lightning in and out of his own body. He could even absorb lightning to an extent, and this would shock everybody. I mean, at the end of the day, this isn't something you see every single day. This isn't something you see even any day, really. Yeah, and it's just surprising to everyone of the capabilities that a young kid like him could really do. It's very, very interesting, and many of them begin to kind of, or many doctors begin to want to really research and really check out what Izuku is capable of. But in all honesty, his mother is not really too fond of the idea of basically allowing all these tests and stuff like this to happen. And she basically tells him, like, look, he deserves to be a normal kid. He deserves to be a normal child, go have fun with your friends and do this and do that. He deserves all of that. But at the same time, she even kind of wants to know what he could really do, kind of wants to know what could possibly happen with his powers and all the above, really. But these tests would be put on the back foot because she would not want a bunch of tests to be run on her child, or a bunch of tests to be ran on her child, because he thinks that that's, just not the best idea, and also kind of just not a good idea in general for her child to go through. And that would be the reality of it. And Izuku kind of would start growing up, but as he would grow up, he would continuously grow these powers that he would have no idea he could have even more of them. He continuously more and more powers, lightning powers that seem unimaginable. And for starters, he would have immense strength, attacks that are infused with this power of lightning. And basically, this lightning would ensue throughout his entire body and allow him to have different types of feats. Faster, he's stronger, everything. It's as if the lightning itself makes everything he does that much better, multiplying his strength by hundreds of times, multiplying his speed by hundreds of times, and so on. Those are the things that Izuku Midoriya is capable of, and he'll continue to be capable of throughout this entire time. Now, let's talk about the first thing that truly comes up and will come to contention with Izuku Midoriya, and that is after a little bit of middle school, he would face off with the sludge villain. Now, of course, Izuku wouldn't be necessarily a trained hero, because, well, nobody really is. All these kids that are trying to be heroes, they don't really try their best to train, try their best, to get stronger or do this or do that. No. They don't really do much of that. But Izuku does have just the flat out potential, or the starting potential of what he can do already in kind of the palm of his hands. So that day, when he would go underneath that bridge and he would be attacked by a giant sludge villain, Izuku would not be a useless kid, would not be a scared kid, and would not be a kid that is going to basically easily be thrown to the wayside and controlled. And Izuku, well, he immediately just stops the sludge villain, just halts him in his shoes, halts him in his feet. Now, obviously he doesn't have feet, but it's just kind of a saying. But Izuku Midoriya halts the attack in general, and he would strike this sludge villain with one singular punch. He would use his kind of strength, or his added strength, with lightning surrounding him, with the electricity sparking off the ground, and he would utilize something he calls his storm-born strength. And he would lay a punch that would send lightning and electricity, static, send wildly all over the place, obliterating the sludge villain into tiny little pieces. The sludge villain would lay there with nothing else to do, nothing else to say, and unable to even move, as he's completely stunned and completely obliterated into tiny little sludge-like pieces. And guess who's there? All Might. And now this interaction's a pretty simple one. He would talk to All Might about what the sludge villain did, how he stopped him, blah, blah, blah. I could see All Might definitely talking to the kid about, oh, you should definitely try out for UA, maybe go into the UA entrance exam and stuff like that. And of course, Izuku would tell him, yeah, I have full intentions of doing so. I'm a really big fan of yours, and blah, blah, blah. They have a pretty good, rapport there where they talk, and, they have a good conversation, and it really helps Izuku. It really helps Izuku kind of, figure some things out, right? At the end of the day, Izuku has questioned himself, from time to time, but at the end of the day, he knows that his potential kind of has really, really no limit, and he knows he just has to continuously push forward to kind of put himself at a different point in a different echelon, and he knows that he has to really, really step his game up, and that's what he's gonna do. And going to UA high school, that right there, going to UA High School is what he needs to do, and he knows that, right? And even though All Might would tell him, oh yeah, you should go to UA, blah, 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 this was something he already wants to do. But getting confirmation from somebody like All Might, I mean, that's another level of confirmation, right? Getting confirmation from someone like him is a pretty damn awesome thing to see, especially a pretty damn awesome thing to really like understand, because Izuku is just, you know, baffled at the fact that someone like All Might can really be that great, in the sense of like he could really even say like, look, like you can be so much greater, you can be this or that, right? And he says, oh, like you have all this potential and blah blah blah, and he's like, whoa, okay, you know what, this is more real than I possibly could imagine. Maybe all of this talk about me being a prodigy, me being extremely powerful, and me being this and that, maybe it's not just all smoke and mirrors. Maybe this is really serious. And frankly, that's the truth. Izuku goes through 10 months of training, like serious training now. And it is by himself, but it is still serious training. He goes through this training and he starts realizing that his powers, his strength, and his abilities are pretty damn limitless. And he continues to show off to himself even crazier abilities. Now, obviously he has his Stormborn strength, but he now has the ability to basically call down massive lightning bolts from the freaking sky, and obviously that would have devastating impact. But there's some other things that he has tried out as well. It seems that the lightning itself also enacts a kind of feel of this like regeneration, and it seems like the lightning itself can be a way to heal himself. Now, he doesn't know if that will affect other people, but he still thinks like it's something to work with in the long run. After the 10 months of training, though, obviously we have the UA entrance exam. And the UA entrance exam would be pretty simple. Now, normally, and obviously, we don't have to talk about the written portion of the exam, because the written portion of the exam, he'll normally do pretty well no matter what. But this version of Izuku with the lightning quirk, or a godly lightning quirk, I could see him having, you know, maybe even faster, or his mind might even work faster. His learning rates might work faster just because of the electrical / lightning like speed that his mind may start working at. Now, nonetheless, he's a smart kid, so he definitely will do really well in the written portion of the exam. But as we go on to the practical is where he really shows off, because he could straight up shoot lightning / electricity, at various different robots and just obliterate them, or even short circuit them very quickly. And this quirk would be perfect for this practical exam because of his ability to manipulate lightning. But of course, his power and strength already is insane because of his lightning effects. Now, on top of that, I mean, we are talking about an absolute fiesta of power that is being shown here. And everybody would be watching, teachers alike, and they would think, wow, this right here, I mean, this is a different level that they could not have expected, and a different level that nobody would be expecting in the first place. Now, obviously, this would eventually continue on with Izuku and many others just fighting robots and stuff. But Izuku would take most of the robots down, and then even the 0-point robot, when he has to fend it off to save a girl by the name of Ochaku Uraka, I mean, it would be no problem at all. Izuku would obliterate that giant robot in one foul swoop, dropping a large lightning bolt straight on top of it, destroying it in one foul swoop. And everyone's kind of like, whoa, now that right there, that is ridiculous. The powers like that seems unfair, borderline. And it almost is, because his group of people that, you know, are trying to get into UA as well, have a harder time even getting a couple robots, because, well, Izuku kind of destroyed almost all of them, so it does make it kind of difficult for them to actually do something. Some people impressed by it, others not too happy with the fact that Izuku did what he did. But at the same time, it's like, what are you gonna do about it, right? Like, Izuku's gonna show off, he's gonna do his thing, he's gonna do some crazy stuff no matter what. So you may not like it, but it's the reality that we're all living in when Izuku Midoriya is just showing off these absurd levels of strength. I mean, in another universe, the kid was quirkless, so him getting his day in the sun here and now, well, it's pretty damn awesome to see, with Izuku Midoriya just absolutely going ham, destroying these robots, and obviously destroying the Zero Pointer and destroying a ton of opportunities for the other people or the other students that are currently there. But don't worry, they will still get their opportunities on another little kind of UA entrance exam that they'll be postponed to get into as well, which they will be given a chance to kind of show what they're capable of, because really Izuku kind of, hogged all the spotlight there, unfortunately, but still he's able to kind of, or they're able to get some time for these other people and these other students, and they're gonna see what these other students are capable of in general, and are capable of getting into and doing, and or kind of like show off. And that's exactly what they're going to do. Now with all that said, obviously we have the approaching first day of UA High School, and this is when we would obviously go into the Quirk assessment after meeting Aizawa and the class for the first time. And the Quirk assessment would be a funny one, because we would have an interaction with Izuku and Bakugo that is very, let's just say, competitive. And Bakugo is very competitive against Izuku, because he feels like he is better than him, even though he is massively gifted, which both of them are massively gifted, but it seems like Izuku shows him up time and time again. And throughout all of middle school, that was the case. He was always showing up Bakugo, always showing that he was better, and always proving that he was better. And that's the real line, is that he was proving that he was better. And he kept showing off against Bakugo, and even again in this Quirk assessment, oh my goodness, I mean, he would beat Bakugo in almost every aspect. And, well, all of the trash talking, all this stupid stuff would happen. So, of course, Aizawa would basically tell them, like, you know what? We're going to do something a little different, where if all of you or whoever gets last place, they'll be expelled and blah, blah, blah. And, yeah, all that stuff happens, the same. And Izuku, though, on the other hand, makes it a little bit different, is that Izuku just absolutely torches everybody, just destroys everybody in this Quirk assessment, showing off his crazy strength that just makes him insanely more powerful. I mean, straight up with his Stormborn strength, it basically allows him to just do everything at a high level, at least physically. So it just makes him that much more formidable. And speaking of formidable, when they go and they face off in the Heroes versus Villains training, I mean, formidable is obviously the word you could use, and formidable is something that is probably an understatement, because when he goes head to head with Tenya Ida and Bakugo with Ochaku Uraraka on his team, I mean, he makes it look like no one would be needed to even fight his battles, because Izuku shows his insane intelligence and his insane kind of deducing skills. But on top of that would show the speed, his flight ability, his ability to literally just overload all the kind of technology within the building to knock out the power and all of these other things. And Izuku would just handle his business very easily. Bakugo would come surging out trying to fight him. But honestly, Izuku would lay down a surge of electricity and a surge of lightning, and absolutely makes them look like jokes. I mean, for starters, with Bakugo cannot stand up to the power, and even tries to like unleash an insane attack of explosions on Izuku, but it doesn't even touch him. Like, it's not even close. It's not even like it's not even touching the guy, because Izuku even has insane durability. But on top of that, going head to head with lightning against fire, it just doesn't go as well as Bakugo may have wanted. And in terms of slowing down Tenya Ida, it's very simple, because once Izuku gets his hands on him, once he gets one singular punch on Tenya Ida would be completely paralyzed, or at least temporarily paralyzed. and he would be unable to move, kind of like a stun of some sort, and he would paralyze Tenya Ida, in which would allow him and Ochako to touch the bomb, ensuing their win in their heroes versus villains training. And after the heroes versus villains training, we obviously have a different type of training coming up very soon. And that different type of training is obviously going to be the USJ. And the USJ is all a part of a specific plan. The USJ is obviously a part of a massive plan for the League of Villains, but also a part of a rescue actual training to get the students ready for different types of situations. But what they don't know is that there is actually some sort of a traitor in the bunch. Not know if it gets a hero or student or anything like that. I have no idea, and there's no real way of finding out at the moment, but they don't have any inclination of who this is, and they would go to the obviously the USJ with no idea of what's going to happen, and the League of Villains would obviously then attack. With portals opening up, Izuku Midoriya is put in a situation where he has to handle things in a specific way. Now, for starters, he definitely would still get teleported in some sort of a portal. He probably could deny it if he was expecting the villains to show up, but being that he didn't really expect and doesn't expect the villains to actually be there, well, he gets teleported into a portal. But here's the thing. Teleporting him to where they do is probably the worst course of action ever. Obviously, we know that they don't technically know anything about what their quirks are, so they'll send them in groups to different places, so they don't really know what their strengths or weaknesses are. So when Izuku gets sent to a large lake and it's surrounded by villains that are utilizing water type like quirks, well, let's just say this doesn't go to the advantage of the villains, because Izuku's lightning based quirk, or godly lightning based quirk, would easily be able to handle things to a large degree. Being able to handle things very easily by just straight up electrifying the water, making it impossible for the villains to actually still kind of be okay within that water, and basically puts them down for good, like puts them out and gone for a while. Now, Izuku would just then take Asui and Mineta and fly over the water so they don't all get into any trouble with getting hurt by his own electricity or his own lightning. But he could have possibly turned it off, but there's probably a chance that there's still leftover kind of electricity looming throughout the water, so he just wanted to be careful. He would fly them across with Asui's help as well, as she basically just jumps across pretty damn fast. And as they all actually survive this, they would then head off into basically dealing with trying to help Aizawa. But the thing is, obviously, it's not as easy as just helping Aizawa, right? Izuku wants to get his classmates to safety first, and then he's gonna go help Aizawa, which he does this by just straight up trying to help him with the minor villains. But then he realizes that Aizawa basically has them all handled. But as he's watching, he sees that Aizawa is about to get struck by the Nomu. And this is where things massively change for Izuku, because Izuku has the strength and ability to shut down the Nomu, right? He would strike lightning on top of the Nomu, at least and considerably slowing it down to the point where the Nomu itself is kind of like in a really bad spot, like extremely bad spot. And the Nomu is kind of like is slower, can barely move, his joints aren't moving the way they normally move, and all the above. And the Nomu seems to be just getting absolutely destroyed at this point, not even with Izuku's hand-to-hand combat or anything like that. Like, he's not using hand-to-hand combat. He is literally just shooting a giant bolt of lightning at him, and it basically solidifies the Nomu's almost defeat pretty damn quickly. But as Izuku continues to use these long-range lightning burst-like attacks, it really messes with the Nomu's nervous system. It messes with everything the Nomu actually is trying to do, because the Nomu itself is being basically controlled via mind control, and the lightning is definitely fried him to the point where he doesn't really know what is happening, and the mind control is either wearing off or basically unable to kind of be utilized. And this would be a perfect time for an opening, giving Izuku an opening to help Aizawa defeat Shigaraki, and also the fact that, well, Aizawa isn't, obliterated into a wall of some sorts. He can obviously help with the defeat of Shigaraki and Kurogiri, being able to cancel quirks, being able to, help out to a large degree here. Izuku would definitely be able to do his thing with defeating not only Shigaraki, but helping defeat Kurogiri with the eraser quirk, of course, of Aizawa, but also his ability to flat out stun and/or slow and/or paralyze different villains and any villain he sees fit. And that right there will allow him to have preparation that is really beyond anyone else's, because Izuku still has a lot of that outlook of he's going to help people, help others, and blah, blah, blah. Just because he doesn't have one for all doesn't mean he won't be kind of like the same kid that he always has been. Now, with all that said, we obviously have some time go by, and now we can talk about the USJ. The USJ is something that Izuku will finally be able to kind of show off what he can truly do. And being that he was the #1 student in kind of like very insane fashion as well, Izuku basically is preparing himself and others to take on what's to come in this place, or what's to come very, very soon in obviously the UA Sports Festival. And this is when Izuku would tell everybody that everyone's gonna, do their absolute best, but the thing is he's gonna show everyone why he is better than everyone else. He's stronger, he's all of these things, and he's gonna show everyone that he's the most capable to be a pro hero. Now, this is shown as a little bit of cockiness, but there's a lot of heroes and other people out there that think, you know what? I mean, that's fair though. I mean, this is the mindset that you have to have. Obviously, you want to give a good show, and you want other people to, have a good time and blah, blah, blah. But he wants to show that he is better than everybody, and that he can really just level himself up to a degree that many others just cannot. Now, with all that said, Izuku would have the first thing go on, which would be the obstacle course race. And the obstacle course race, would be an easy thing. At the end of the day, Izuku is beyond fast. Like, he is so freaking fast. And the fact is, like, it probably would have been a good idea to send him to get All Might at one point, to basically try to get help instead of Tenya Ida, because it would have been handled. But luckily they were able to handle the Nomu and all those people before even All Might would arrive. But of course, Izuku, on the other hand, though, his speed is just ridiculous, and he just blitzes through the obstacle course race past everyone. And it's not like they can just benefit from Izuku's speed or anything like that. Not like how possibly Todoroki's ice could benefit to get over kind of like, the minefield and stuff like that. Like, Izuku just flies across easily and just outpaces everybody flying through with a lightning trail that continues to crackle and spark as he flies across. Now, after him being the #1 in the obstacle course race, we have him join the cavalry battle, which he is the #1 student in the cavalry battle, being that he legitimately has, like, an insane amount of points now, because Izuku gets his 10 million point band. Now, this 10 million point band obviously is very useful, but this 10 million point band also puts a large target on his back. But the target doesn't necessarily matter when you have the powers of Izuku, especially when he basically can allow his teammates to be safe by just fending off people, shooting electricity, shooting lightning here and there. And even if they do get their band stolen, they would definitely be getting other people's bands as well. So having that as a way of kind of stopping everything from occurring, and, like, having him being able to defend many others, it definitely would benefit them in the long run. Now, as he continues basically showing off his powers, he would go head to head with Hitoshi Shinso. And this is where things get a little bit crazy, because Izuku does definitely fall for the mind control tactic, being that Izuku is a little bit more arrogant, a little bit more cocky. Yes, it's still our Izuku, but he still has a little bit more to him here. But even with that said, he's able to basically shock himself out of it and then basically knock or defeat Shinso very quickly, because now he's realizing what his tactics are and what he could truly do. And he knows now, like, he definitely cannot treat him lightly, you could say, right? He definitely cannot just treat him like some nobody or some person that he could just easily defeat. So he shuts his mouth, he has some humility, and he would knock out Shinso very quickly. But he would even compliment Shinso, saying that was pretty damn impressive. And if he didn't have the quirk he had, he probably would have been eliminated, and Shinso would have gotten a lot of regard for defeating the literal #1 student in Class 1A. I mean, that would have been pretty damn freaking impressive. But he tells Shinso that keep working at it, that, he has a lot of potential, and that he knows that, it's a little inconvenient now that where he is and stuff like that, being that he's in like general studies and stuff. But he tells him that everything will come in due time. And what Izuku doesn't know is that he's more right than he can possibly imagine, because everything will eventually come in due time. Now, with all that said, he continues on with who he has to defeat, and the next person he faces off with is actually Shoto Todoroki, a lot of people's pick to actually win this whole thing. And Izuku, well, he's excited to take on Todoroki because he has some pretty insane and interesting powers. But the thing is, Izuku's powers are absolutely ridiculous. Izuku's powers give him the potential to just absolutely just scorch Todoroki off the battlefield. Now, in terms of a speed and strength disparity, it's pretty obvious that Izuku is faster, he's stronger, he's all of these things. But being able to keep up with just, his ability with fire and ice, I mean, it's definitely something that he will be and is able to do, helping and defeating and taking on Izuku to a large degree. But it doesn't mean that he's going to basically win against Izuku. Like I said, he is kind of outmatched here, or Todoroki is kind of outmatched here. So he is going to fall to Izuku and be defeated by him in a absolute blaze of glory, you could say, even though he doesn't have an actual fire quirk, of course. But it's a pretty insane way of winning, and a pretty insane way and an insane thing to watch. Because Izuku would show off an actual insane amount of lightning force and a lightning powers that many haven't even seen just yet. But as he would shoot this lightning and electricity out of his hands, it would immediately clash with the Todoroki's fire and ice, being that he finally got Todoroki to crack and got him to use his full power. But here's the thing. As they clash and as they go head to head, unfortunately for Todoroki, he's just unable to keep up with the power that is being displayed, and Izuku Midoriya wins the battle today. And this would ensue into another battle against Tenya Ida, but a Tenya Ida fight is a very easy one, and this would be the same thing and the same idea for someone like Bakugo. Because going against Bakugo, yes, it's a bit of a treat, because he likes the idea of taking down his good old buddy, even though they're not, the best of friends in the world. But he loves the idea of taking him down, because it just proves to everybody that, yes, Bakugo is cocky and all these things, but he's not on the level of Izuku Midoriya. And it's kind of ironic, because in another world, well, Izuku's the one that would always fall behind Bakugo for a while. But now that in this world where Izuku has powers that seem to be given from, a god of lightning himself, it seems like Bakugo is the one that is always playing catch up. Bakugo is the one that is always falling behind. And that's the truth about this, the UA Sports Festival, when Izuku Midoriya gets first place and Bakugo is left there absolutely speechless. But of course, with all that said, and with all that done and dusted, Izuku has to look forward to one thing and one thing only, and that is his actual, internships of some sort. And these internships are a big part of being a hero very soon, and I could see him going to a plethora of different heroes, but I feel like it honestly makes a lot of sense to give Izuku probably a high-profile type of hero. Now, that high-profile type of hero could be really anyone, but I feel that Endeavor is a good shot for actually going over to get into his internships, because he believes that Izuku could make his own son that much more powerful, and this is something like Endeavor is basically using Izuku to try and get his son Todoroki to be even stronger than he already is, or get him to be even more capable than he already is. Now, as they would team up to an extent, Izuku and Todoroki, we would still have them go to Hosu City, as Endeavor would definitely not like the idea of really helping Izuku necessarily get stronger, but he would help him in different ways to get stronger, right? So they would head to Hosu City, though, as a kind of like a duo, and Izuku would still ensue in taking down and also kind of working with Todoroki to take down the hero killer. And this version of the fight is a lot simpler than the one in the original, because this version of the fight, is one where Izuku can stun, paralyze, will do literally what the hero killer does to many people, paralyze them. But he can paralyze, he can stun, he can slow, he can literally just long range attack, or he can get in close. But if he does get in close, he can utilize that Stormborn strength of his and that ability to just be so much faster and so much stronger than everyone else. So the hero killer wouldn't even be able to touch him, and he would just absolutely just destroy the hero killer. And everybody that are heroes there that are kind of like, taking place in this area are pretty damn impressed at the fact that Todoroki and Izuku were able to handle the hero killer with such ease. But of course, Endeavor's forced to take the kind of attention / the credits for the downfall of the hero killer. But everybody knows, like Izuku knows, and other heroes do know, that Izuku's like abilities and or Todoroki's abilities are on a high scale, and this would give a lot more attention to Todoroki, especially with Endeavor, yes, taking the credit, but the heroes that are there, well, he would tell the heroes that it was actually his son that did all the work. Now, this doesn't really bother Izuku necessarily. It does kind of annoy him, but it doesn't bother him necessarily, just because he's kind of like arrogant and stuff, but he's not to the point where he really needs everybody's kind of everybody's like attention. Like he doesn't really care that much about that stuff. He just knows he's the best, and he's going to continue knowing he's the best, or thinking he's the best, but in his reality it's knowing he's the best, right? And his confidence is one thing, so he doesn't really get upset or get annoyed or kind of, even pay any attention to Endeavor's kind of stupid things that Endeavor does, obviously. But of course, he is still like doing his thing in general to get better, to get stronger, and all the above. And this is when we would lead us and steer us in toward the final exams. Now, obviously, we have the written portion of the exam, but of course, the written portion doesn't matter as much. We all know that the practical is what is the end-all, be-all, and Izuku and, Katsuki Bakugo will still have their fight with the one and only All Might, but this fight is a lot different than you would think. Now, of course, Izuku could try his best to, fight alongside Bakugo, but both of them don't really like the idea of doing that. So Bakugo goes first to try to defeat All Might, and blah, blah, blah. And he gets absolutely destroyed. Like, he gets absolutely obliterated. Like, he gets smacked around by All Might. And eventually Izuku hops in to do his best to help out. And, of course, he tries his best to help Bakugo out and not allow him to, get absolutely destroyed, even though it's already kind of happening. But he's there for the most part, trying to look out for Bakugo, trying to help Bakugo. And this is when we kind of lead into to Izuku's fight with All Might, where he's really showing off that kind of electrified, lightning type based physical strength and power, and he is literally like punching, kicking, going head to head with All Might, and everyone's like, whoa, this is not what we expected. I mean, at the end of the day, normally it's never like he would, like, who would have thought that he would ever be this close in a fight with All Might? I mean, it's kind of ridiculous to even think about, but I mean, shoot, we're talking Izuku Midoriya is absolutely doing some insanely badass things, and Izuku continues to kind of slow down All Might, but All Might is still keeping up, and Izuku is, for the most part, like, to an extent, holding back, and that goes for All Might too, holding back just a little bit, but Izuku is slowing him down over and over and over again, and All Might just feels like he's losing his grip on kind of this fight. He doesn't know if he could really keep up the way he wants to. He never thought that someone's quirk, someone's powers, they would be to this degree. I mean, seriously, he's just a young kid, and the fact that he has quirk powers and potential to this level seems kind of unworldly, right? It seems like it doesn't make sense, and that is true. To an extent, it feels like, and really is, something that doesn't necessarily make sense with how powerful Izuku has gotten over a short course of time. But the thing is, Izuku has been kind of withholding and having this quirk for longer than you could imagine. Izuku Midoriya and this quirk is like a big part of what he is. I mean, when he was born, electricity and lightning would strike all around them. That's how just in-depth this quirk really is to his own life. It's as if he legitimately is one with the lightning. And that right there is a scary, scary thing, because if he is one with the lightning, that means he has a quirk that maybe has evolved quicker than other people's quirks, and a quirk that has evolved to the point where it truly is an extension of himself. Not just an extension or a part of himself, very similar to like an organ or something like that, where it's part of him that way. No, this is legitimately a part of him. His quirk is him. Izuku Midoriya is the lightning. And this is where he starts realizing the level of strength he truly has, because Izuku starts getting the upper hand on All Might himself. Now, obviously, he doesn't know that All Might is hurt, and he eventually would kind of cut the fight short with grabbing Bakugo and flying them away and escaping outside. Obviously, Bakugo was defeated, and Izuku was not really there to test if he could really defeat All Might or not, because he doesn't know for sure. There's a chance, small chance, that he actually could. There's a good chance he actually could, but he's not going to play with that idea just in case, because he doesn't want to, somehow get defeated here and, wouldn't be allowed to go on to the forest training camp. So that's something that he decides to do, or decides not to do, I guess would be the correct thing to say. And they would defeat, quote unquote, or at least kind of go on to the next part or the next round, and past this round, of the practical exam, and this would allow them to go on and basically go on to the forest training camp. Now, the forest training camp would be different in this regard. We wouldn't get the normal villain invasion. For starters, Shigaraki is currently behind bars, defeated. He was fully paralyzed and probably still is paralyzed to a certain extent. And same thing with Kurogiri being defeated as well. They are not of consequence in this regard. So they would get a full forest training camp, and we could probably expect All For One to try to make some sort of last-ditch effort to kind of stop or defeat or kill All Might, and that could be during this right after the forest training camp. Obviously, the students would get a ton of potentially great training done, including Izuku, gaining even better strength and probably gaining even more techniques that he didn't even know about in the first place. But in terms of the actual invasion of the forest training camp, that doesn't happen, and All For One would definitely approach things a little bit differently. Now, the way he would approach things, in my opinion, and things that might would definitely or might change in this version, is All For One sending a herd, a absolute insane amount of Nomus, with the inclusion or potentially the inclusion of something like Gigantomachia. Because if he does send a ton of Nomus, yes, that's what he's done before, he would have to definitely send high-end level Nomus if he wanted to actually make a ton of a difference. Now, obviously, the high-end Nomus probably aren't ready, so Gigantomachia earlier on is probably something that is of contention, and that might make some pretty damn insane waves. But, of course, we don't know that for sure, but this could possibly put Izuku in a spot that makes him almost potentially ready to be a hero himself. Because when Izuku Midoriya sees the monstrous creature approach and Nomus, various amounts of Nomus show up as well, the heroes have to really think quick on their feet to how they're going to defeat him. Now, not having to worry about Shigaraki and only having to worry about All For One and not like a peak crazy overpowered Shigaraki is definitely helpful. All Might one-on-one could defeat All For One, but they definitely need to make some plans for these Nomus and Gigantomachia. And this would lead Izuku to going kind of, I wouldn't say haywire, but definitely off the books, and he would decide to help out when technically and legally he's not supposed to. But Izuku would rain absolute lightning and absolute just storm breaker coverage, and would create something that he's been working on for a while. The entire area where Gigantomachia is, where All For One is, where every single person is, I mean, he creates something he knows and has created something that he deems his storm domain. And this storm domain makes it so that all the Nomus would get zapped and absolutely just smacked with lightning all around, and it would lead to the people or the Nomus actually getting fried to the point where they actually aren't necessarily even under control anymore. They literally can't even think for themselves. They're just standing there dormant. So this would allow for a lot more attention to be put on All For One, and a lot more attention to be put on Gigantomachia. Now, Gigantomachia could potentially defeat / kill a lot of people here because of the lack of preparation for Gigantomachia showing up. And this would be kind of a last-ditch effort for All For One, knowing that if this all fails, he will not be doing what he believed would be best for the world, and that is him taking over the world. And this is where Izuku Midoriya would come into play, because they wouldn't have a choice but to allow Izuku to really push the pedal here and use his entire arsenal of powers in terms of lightning, in terms of his strength, and in terms of everything he's capable of. Because when he starts fighting against these Nomus and these other villains, and eventually he would get his hands on Gigantomachia, he would make quite a massive sacrifice where he would jump in harm's way of this giant monstrous creature, and immediately he would be kind of he would immediately be just utilizing all bits of his power he possibly can, and he would just immediately smack the monstrous creature with lightning blast after lightning bolt after every single thing you could think of. I mean, he is letting loose power that he hasn't even shown off just yet, and power that he hasn't even really reached to a large extent, and he begins to fry Gigantomachia, And with the help of the others trying to keep everything contained, Izuku would utilize a large portion and a powerful portion of his quirk to sit Gigantomachia down and also paralyze him for a certain amount of time so that they can get Midnight's quirk within his system without him even moving. And then slowly but surely he would pass out. Slowly but surely he would no longer be conscious, and the defeat of All for One and the defeat of course, Gigantomachia would be upon them. But Izuku Midoriya would pass out, and he would have no idea that there's so much more to this story than he could imagine. So much more that he potentially will be able to get into, and so much more that so much more things to talk about before he truly becomes the hero he seeks out to be. But with that said, that is for the next and final part of What If Deku Had a Godly Lightning Quirk. Will they give him the powers? Will they give him the strength and abilities and or kind of the ability to be a full-on pro hero / provisional hero earlier on than normal? Or will he still have to push forward in the normal sense and still have to earn every single stripe he could possibly have? Well, you're going to have to find out in that next part, like I said. And if you guys enjoyed, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.